The first thing we intend to achieve is to gather evidence of TI.
The industry craftily uses digital media, social networking sites to burnish their image and foster partnership with state actors, and of course to further burnish their image and products with the general public in contravention of the National Tobacco Control Act 2015 and the National Tobacco Control Regulation 2019. This report we are unveiling today examines the popular, social websites like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and a host of others that are used by over 100 million Nigerians between the period of 2016 and 2021, and found out that the British American Tobacco Nigeria, through its charity arm, the British American Tobacco Nigeria Foundation, Philip Morris International Nigeria Limited, and others, use the virtual space unchecked to gain favorable public rating while mentioning nothing about the harms of their products. We also find out that distributors, vendors, and agents like Smoke.org, NG, Das Smoke Hub, and the rest of them use their digital media, social media platform to aggressively promote the use of tobacco products and smoking culture, while efforts are on to see decline of smoking in Nigeria. And so they use their platforms, including the use of music icons, to promote smoking habits. We also documented that they use those platforms to promote the activities of the tobacco industry in agriculture, education, entertainment, and subtly kind of promoting the idea that they are contributors to the Nigerian economy. We identified the following areas, in this report that we are unveiling. Their preferred social networking channels, the preferred networking channels given by the particular tobacco industry. We look at their tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship, and other visibility activities on the internet. We also look at the years that has the highest number of such activities, and the sectors that were promoted, and look at regions, and of course we look at the tobacco industry that engage in some of these activities. And we find out that the most preferred channel in Nigeria is the Facebook, which recorded 40%, Twitter 36%, YouTube 14%, and that was followed by Instagram 5%, the blog website 3%, and LinkedIn. This report also identified existing gap in the National Tobacco Control Act in our quest towards enforcing the ban on tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship and endorsement by the industry. It particularly notes that the Act, in its section 12(4)(d), that dissemination or reporting of information of tobacco industry practices characterized as unlikely to be perceived as socially responsible practices shall not be considered tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship, and identified that this is problematic, and that this has allowed the industry to subjectively interpret or misinterpret that loopholes to continue to use digital media to promote their products. And to address this gap, we are making some of these few recommendations, which is we have to protect policies from the commercial interest of the industry in line with Article 5.3, which says that the country shall act in a way through policies, regulation, to ensure that the vested interest of the tobacco industry is not in conflict with public health. And so, if this has to be enforced, if you look at the guidelines of the article, you find out that some of those CSR agreements that the industry currently promotes are not supposed to be. And that the government should begin to enforce necessary penalty on the tobacco industry for their violation of the law, that the government should revoke all agreement and agencies and MOUs between government and agencies. And of course, most importantly, is that the government should begin to look at how the tobacco industry has been exploiting the digital media to promote their products, and then begin to award the necessary penalties. Thank you very much. You're most welcome.
Largely, and I've gone online, and on the online platforms like Bode mentioned, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we see a lot of activities that the tobacco industry is doing, and we see a lot of things that their vendors, those who market their products, do. One of the things that we observed, because the law recommends that government officials are wary of relationships with the tobacco industry, especially partnerships. Because by the time you have government agencies partnering with the industry utilizes that platform to weaken either legislation or the industry themselves now use that opportunity to portray themselves as socially responsible, and they use it to distance themselves from the arms of their products, the arms of their business. So on these social media platforms like Bode mentioned, you will never see the tobacco companies say their products kill. You will never see them talk about how tobacco harms children or harms users, or how secondhand smoke is also dangerous. But what you see is that they are promoting some other activities that they are doing. Some of the activities we found are particularly in the agricultural sector. In fact, majority of what we observed are in the agricultural sector. So you see them engaging with fish farmers, they engage with state governments. We observe particularly a lot that they are doing with the Lagos state government. We observe what they are doing with the Oyo state government. We observed what they are doing even here in Abuja and other parts of the federation. So these activities that they do, these so-called corporate social responsibility activities they do, paints them in a positive light. And that is what we have found. Now, the offline space, newspapers, television, radio, is one, those platforms are actually being monitored very, very well by the enforcement agencies, the FCCPC and other agencies that are monitoring tobacco industry activities. So to ensure that they continue business as usual, most of what they have done, what they now do, they have now moved it to that of online space, the platforms what they mentioned, which are not adequately regulated. And as you and I know, kids also frequent those platforms. A lot of young people are on Facebook, a lot of young people are on Twitter, they're on Instagram. And what they see is tobacco industry promoting corporate social responsibility, promoting entrepreneurship activities, and everything that will portray them as socially responsible. And unfortunately, what we have found is that some state governments and even the federal government, either knowingly or unknowingly, now endorse those things they do. So for instance, you are going to see in this report how, for instance, the Nigerian Customs Service is praising the tobacco industry. You are going to see how the Lagos state government is praising the tobacco industry. You are going to see how the Ogun state government is praising the tobacco industry. In fact, you are also going to read how the National Youth Service Corps, which is a federal engagement, the National Youth Service Corps is also praising, the tobacco industry for engaging youth corpers in entrepreneurial skills. Those are the kind of things you are going to see in this report. And all these things, like we mentioned, the tobacco industry uses this to burnish their image, to polish their image. You're also going to see how some of their vendors, there's a smoke hub, there's a smoke box. These are organizations that are actually flouting the law and marketing tobacco products. And what do? They even use some of our celebrities We've seen, you are going to see some of them on in the report itself.
Two notorious tobacco vendors we found on the internet explicitly marketing, promoting tobacco products, and even using entertainment icons like Burna Boy, Naira Marley, and Davido to promote a smoke culture on the internet. So you had some of their posts which had 15,000 impressions. So when you see 15,000 impressions, you imagine how many people must have seen that post. And so when we also talk about loopholes in the act or our tobacco policy, this is to say that I'd like to say that we have quite a robust, policy. But the problem is enforcement, because even when you look at the National Tobacco Control Act, it talks about social media. It mentions social media. It mentions the internet. So it even restricts the sale of tobacco products on the internet. But here is one loophole we found. In its explanatory note about what tobacco products means, it defined tobacco products as any product entirely made out of the tobacco leaf. And
put them into this campaign so that they too will understand and lend their voice to the need to checkmate what the industry is doing in the virtual space. So I felt putting that into context.
Well, let me also make an addition to that. Well, I think what I want to Cora said, the law is very clear, and in my own opinion, we are yet to exhaust the provisions of the law. Digital media influencers that they can latch on, and consider the market size of Nigerians and the availability of the youth demography that seems to patronize the internet. So that seems to be like a ready market. Let me just take you through the journey very briefly. The first thing we intend to achieve is to garner evidence of TI. For ally, to the leverage ally. Many of us, or many of the time in
Africa, we would like to present this report, Tobacco Industry Capture the Virtual Space in Nigeria, essentially as a call to action to the Nigerian government to begin to see